Hey everyone, I'm Robert B, Finland-based DJ and producer. Today I'm going to show you how I made my track called Feel the Wind, which is part of my 2-track EP out now on Future Sound of Egypt, Argento. Feel the Wind is a happier, feel-good, uplifting kind of progressive track with some deeper and techier vibes and some 80s synthwave elements. Let's dive in. Feel the Wind has several layers of bass forming together the bass you hear in the track. The most prominent one, I think, is the mid bass. Underneath that I have a sustaining sub bass, and giving some movement I have these three layers of sustaining top basses. The mid bass, let's solo this one here, is coming from Serum. Quite simple sound. 2 oscillators, both have saw oscillator and some filter envelope and some EQ. I'm boosting 1300 a little bit. The mid bass has in itself 2 layers. This one here and the second top snap, giving a bit more attack and bite to around 1700. The top snap is also coming from Diva, and it's quite the same sound as the main rolling bass. The sub part, like mentioned earlier, is a sustaining note. You might need good headphones or speakers to hear this one. It's coming from Diva, a preset sound, and I've edited the filter cutoff and the filter envelope a little bit. And these 2 or 3 sustaining top parts, the moving basses. Let's take a look at the processing a little bit, at least some of the main elements of the bass. Let's start with the mid bass. So first I'm cutting everything under 100 Hz away. This one, the lower or the part, cutaway part, is filled obviously with the sub. So I'm cutting here in the mid bass everything under 100 Hz away, and doing the opposite here in the sub area. So everything above 100 Hz is being cut away. Let's move back to the mid bass. So first comes the EQ. After that comes some OTT, over the top compression. This one is a free plugin from Xfer Records, maker of the Serum, and this one compresses upwards, downwards compression, and the depth is set at 23. I think this depth acts like a mix knob or something like that, and this one also colors, saturates the sound a little bit, giving more top As you can see, it's a bit duller. And when I enable it again, the signal comes a bit more brighter. Then I have some chorus. Chorus over here. This one is also a free plugin from Tal, and this emulates the Juno, I think Juno 106 or something like that. Not sure, but this gives very nice chorus effects. And then I have some EQ. This one controls with the dynamic EQ one note I thought was a bit too restless. This is like compression, but only compressing this one note here. Then it's the top bass. We already covered that one. But if we look the rolling bass group processing, I have some more EQ, delay, filter. This one filters down or cuts the highs, and by doing this I control the energy of the track. And in the end, some shaper box, volume shaper. This one is simply just a visual sidechain against the kick. Very handy plugin, easy to use. And here in the beginning I have BX console, channel strip, SSL-E 4000. This one is a multifunctional plugin, has some different modules, but in this time, in this group, I'm using it mostly for some coloration. Then we could take a look at the sub bass. These two EQs I think I already explained, so I'm the first one I'm cutting everything above 100 Hz away, and that space is given for the mid bass, and the second one monos the lower part, everything under 147 in the sides. Side signal is being cut away, so that leaves only the mid section. So it makes the signal to be mono, and compressor after that controls the sound a little bit. Not a big deal here in the verse, but when we enter to the climax, where note changes are introduced from F to D to A, especially the sub parts tend to act like different bass notes have a different volume, so this one helps with those. And in the end, similar as the mid bass, sidechain against the kick. The main melody is made out of two separate layers, a diva pluck, and on top of that I have a short, snappy noise pluck from Serum. Another important thing is how the melody is evolving and changing in different parts of the song. You're now hearing the climax part. This is the highest and the most energetic part, so the notes are also a bit higher. But if we move over here to the first verse, here in the climax, the melody is playing a bit lower in the register. And if we jump back to the drop, here in the beginning of the drop, the melody is very stripped down version, only playing a couple of the notes and also keeping things in the lower register. And by this way, when we enter to the climax, we can really accentuate the climax and have more hitting energy. The Pluck sound is coming from Diva, as mentioned. This is a preset sound. I've edited it a bit. The cutoff envelope, filter envelope, and also the volume envelope. After that comes some OTT, over the top compression, upwards, downwards compression, and also this one also saturates the sound a little bit. After that I have a erosion and redux group. This one adds a bit more character or bite to the sound. Not a massive difference, but you can hear a bit more upper frequencies when this one is enabled. After that comes some isotope, neutron exciter, multi-band exciter. With this I'm only saturating or exciting this part here from 1 to 8K area. Not a massive difference, but giving a bit more bite to the sound. As you can hear, when it's bypassed, the sound sounds a little bit more duller. And when enabled, the sound opens up a bit more. After that, some parallel compression. The mix is set very low at 15, so I'm crushing the sound quite heavily and then blending in that processed signal. This one makes it sound a bit fatter or stronger. As you can hear, it brings out those low-level frequencies up a bit more. After that comes some delay and reverb and couple side chains. First one giving a bit more space for the kicks transient to come through, and the second one doing the overall pumping or side chaining. The noise pluck from Serum, just the noise oscillator enabled with a bright white and some volume envelope and some EQ. Next we could look at this breakdown section and decode that a bit. The bass sound is the same sound as in other parts of the song, just EQ'd differently. Here elsewhere I'm cutting everything above 100 Hz away to give space for the rolling bass, but here in the breakdown the sound plays in full. After EQ comes some compression. This one controls the volume a little bit, and then some effect and a track spacer, making sure the vocal has enough space in the mix. orchestral sounds, both are coming from Contact. Piano is standard Contact library, New York concert grand, nothing fancy. And the string sound is a Dio Anthology string ensemble. Both relatively simple, some EQ and some effect. And on group level, again, SSLE doing some console emulation coloring, some reverb and track spacer. And in the end, the brake pads. The most prominent one, the MIDI looks like this, which is more or less the same MIDI as in the string sounds. The sound itself is coming from Omnisphere, gorgeous analog pad open. It describes the sound quite well in my opinion. Only EQ, and that's it. The next layer or next sound in this group is this swelling pad sound coming from Serum, couple oscillators and LFO doing some pitch modulation, making it wobble a little. And this one playing in the background, also creating some movement. And the same thing, like in elsewhere, BX console SSL 4000E, again with some EQ, gain automation and sidechaining. The vocals play a significant role in this track, setting up the overall tone and the vibe for the whole song. The basic setup with the vocals is quite simple. The main vocal has a couple layers, the main one over here, and the second one giving a bit more body and lows to the vocal. And on top of the main vocals, I have some additional chops and delays, creating more atmosphere and vibe, especially important here in the breakdown section. The processing for the main vocal goes some EQ, doing some cleaning if there's any unwanted low frequencies. Then I have some isotope nectar doing most of the mixing for the vocals. First some EQ, boosting the highs a little bit, then controlling peaks with a compressor, and in the end some de-esser. Then comes Crackwell's voice-centric one-up wonder. This one compresses the signal a bit more, but also gives some color and saturation. Then I have some gain automation going on, so I can boost or cut the volume or the gain in certain parts if I need to. After that, some auto filter, and in the end, couple delays and reverb. On group level, processing follows pretty same patterns. First I have some console magic coloration coming from BX console SSL 4000E, some more gain automation, and in the end I have a shaper box or volume shaper doing some mild side chaining whenever the kick is playing and giving more room for the whole track to breathe. My workflow with mixing is that I mix as I go, at least for the most part. Then I can run a couple independent mixing sessions after the whole track has found its shape and form, and then I dive deeper and tweak things more in depth. For the most part, mixing for me is just getting the levels right, nice balance between different elements, and making sure there aren't too many overlapping frequencies. The mixing part of this track, or the processing, we've pretty much already covered, but let's take a quick look at my mastering chain and my approach to that before finishing off with this video. The first plugin is Black Box Tube Saturation Odd and Even Harmonics. Mix is set at 17, doing things in parallel. Let me disable and enable it so you can hear how it sounds. After that comes Fab Filter Pro Q3. Resolution is set at 3 dBs, so I'm not doing a whole lot with this. Half a dB boost or cut here and there. After that, some OTT. This one is Ableton Live stock plugin, similar to the one I showed you earlier, but has more controls. I can be more precise with things, which is good for mastering. The mix knob is set at 15, but still doing quite a bit for the track. Then comes the Oxford inflator, contributing some clipping and saturation magic. Let's hear how it sounds. Quite subtle effect, but still giving some 3D feeling for the sound. Mark EQ, not doing any processing this time, only running the signal through this plugin, getting that subtle analog juice out of it. Then probably my most favorite plugin, as you've seen, compressing a little bit, dB, half a dB, and also that console color. Then comes seismic glue, the final compressor. Ratio set at 2, attack quite slow and release quite fast, or the fastest. Half a dB of compression. And in the end, elevate limiter. This one has several different modules. You can control things in quite fancy way, but for the most part with this I'm just doing the final loudness of this track. So there you have it. Thanks for watching. Hope you find the video interesting and useful, and if you have any questions or comments, you can leave those in the comments below or send me a private message over any of my socials. If you like the track, you can also check out the whole Feel the Wind EP, including this one and a second track called Luminary. Take care.